His name is on murals. His name is on streets. Schools across America are named after him. And for 60 years, one of the women he violated stayed silent to protect the movement he built. Right now, cities are actively removing his name from landmarks. Statues are being covered. Annual marches planned for his holiday are being canceled. And the reason all of this is happening comes down to a 5-year investigation published this week by the New York Times, one of the most explosive pieces of journalism in recent memory. So let's start from the beginning, because if you didn't grow up learning about Cesar Chavez, here's what you need to know. He was Mexican-American, co-founder of the United Farm Workers Union, and for generations, he was considered one of the most celebrated civil rights leaders in modern U.S. history. His face is on murals from East L.A. to Portland. President Biden had a bust of him inside the White House. Kids grew up doing school reports on him. He was, for millions of Americans, especially Latino Americans, not just a leader, but a symbol of dignity, of resistance, of what one person could build when they refused to accept injustice. He died in 1993, and for over 30 years after his death, that image remained completely intact. Until Wednesday. The New York Times just published the results of a 5-year investigation. They interviewed more than 60 people, former top aides, relatives, former members of the United Farm Workers, and reviewed union records, confidential emails, photographs, and recordings of internal board meetings. What they found is going to be very difficult for a lot of people to process. 2 women, Ana Murguia and Deborah Rojas, told the newspaper that Chavez sexually abused them for years in the 1970s, beginning when they were 12 or 13 years old and he was in his 40s. But the most significant voice in this entire story is not theirs. It belongs to Dolores Huerta. Dolores Huerta is 96 years old. She is Chavez's co-founder. She helped him build the entire United Farm Workers movement from nothing. She marched beside him, organized beside him, gave her life to the same cause he claimed to believe in. And this week, she revealed that Chavez sexually abused her twice. She wrote that the first time she was manipulated and pressured into sex because he was her boss, her leader, someone she admired, someone she felt she could not say no to. The second time, she said, she was forced, against her will, in an environment where she felt trapped. She also revealed that she had 2 children from those encounters and arranged for them to be raised by other families. She carried that for 60 years. Now here's where most of the coverage is getting this story wrong, and this is important. A lot of people are going to hear this and immediately split into 2 camps. Either they're going to say this is an attack on the labor movement, on Latino heritage, on a man who can no longer defend himself, or they're going to say tear it all down, erase his name from everything, the legacy is over. Both of those reactions missed the point entirely. 2 things are true at the same time. The farm worker movement was real. The labor wins were real. The dignity and power that millions of people found through that movement, that was real. And Cesar Chavez also abused young girls and raped his own co-founder for decades. You do not have to choose between those 2 truths. They both exist. The mistake is thinking you have to pick one. The harder and more honest question is this: how did it stay hidden for 60 years? And Dolores Huerta answered that herself. She wrote that she stayed silent because she believed the farm workers needed Chavez more than they needed the truth. She wrote that she has never identified as a victim, but now understands that she is a survivor of violence, of sexual abuse, of men who saw her and other women as property. She protected the movement because she believed in it that deeply, and that is what movements do. They ask victims to weigh their pain against the greater good. And sometimes those victims say yes, not because they are weak, but because they believe in something bigger than themselves. So what happens now? The United Farm Workers has already said it will not participate in annual celebratory events this month. Sacramento is moving to rename Cesar Chavez Plaza, just blocks from the state capitol. San Diego officials are discussing renaming Cesar Chavez Parkway. In Portland, city councilors are pushing to rename Cesar E. Chavez Boulevard, with some calling for it to be named after Dolores Huerta instead. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced the state will no longer observe Cesar Chavez Day. His name is on more than 100 schools, parks, and streets across the country. That conversation is happening everywhere right now, simultaneously. Here is my honest prediction. Within 6 months, you're going to see a split happen in this country. Conservative states will move fast to strip his name from everything, and not purely out of solidarity with the victims, but because it gives them political cover to quietly dismantle labor movement symbolism at the same time. Progressive states will take longer, trying to figure out how to honor the farm worker movement without honoring the man who built it. And Dolores Huerta, a 96-year-old woman who spent 6 decades carrying a secret she was never asked to carry, is going to become the new face of that movement. She already is, and here's why this matters to you, specifically. Every movement you've ever believed in has a version of this problem. Every cause, every institution, every organization, somewhere in its history, Someone in power abused that power, and people around them stayed quiet to protect the mission. That is not unique to the labor movement. That is the hidden tax that movements have always collected from the people who had the least power inside them. Dolores Huerta did not have to speak. She is 96 years old. She could have taken this to her grave, and no one would have blamed her. Instead, she gave every survivor who was ever told to be quiet for the greater good, something they rarely get, proof that it is never too late to be believed. That is not a political story, that is a human one, and it is going to be talked about for a very long time.